Greetings comic book fans and welcome to my comic book reviews for the second week of July 2015. This week I've got 17 books to review. There's going to be ranting, there's going to be praise, there's going to be joy, there's going to be sorrow, there's going to be a confession. All this much more in my comic book reviews, so without further ado, let's get to those reviews. So from Marvel this week we have 5 books to review. The observant amongst you who may have watched my whole video would recognise that I only bought 2 Marvel books this week, but somehow 3 others have materialised in my review. And this is where the confession comes in. I was a bad boy. Temptation won out over common sense and I picked up Age of Apocalypse issue number 1. $4.99 book, but it's only the first issue that's $4.99. Part of the reason I wasn't going to get this was partly it was $4.99 and partly because a lot of the books that I've read that have been named after events, have really had nothing to do with the event they're named after. It's kind of like they've dumped on a Battle World, they've been there for 8 years, and it's kind of developed into its own thing. So it's not kind of the event that we knew. It's kind of a tribute to that event, maybe, with familiar characters, but in a different kind of story. So I kind of wasn't, but Age of Apocalypse is one of my all-time favourite stories. I haven't read it in years, so I don't know if it holds up, but I just have great memories of it, and so in the end that kind of won out, and I picked this one up. Initially reading it, I was a bit confused, trying to figure out where it set. Is it set before the story we read, after the story? Why Sabretooth, a Horseman? Wasn't he with the X-Men? Exodus, I don't remember him being an X-Man. You know, so like there was like loads of like stuff in here that you kind of figuring out. But after a bit away into the book, I kind of let that go and just took the story for the story, and I think that worked out a lot better. Letting go of that, you know, and in many ways it's kind of like a tribute to Age of Apocalypse in a way, because the book had that vibe of Age of Apocalypse and it felt authentic, and I think part of that was the art. The art kind of evoked the feeling of that time. It had like an old school flavour with new school kind of feel to it as well. So I think that art really worked well, and the story itself was really good. I felt that they didn't really explain how this Age of Apocalypse come about. The whole thing about Xavier dying and this creating an environment where Magneto set up the X-Men instead of Xavier, and that Apocalypse took over all of North America and was ruling the world, and what's left of humanity is living, you know, ready to kind of strike back against Apocalypse. It kind of doesn't explain none of that. You just know in the story that Apocalypse is ruling the world, basically. That, and maybe that's all you know, but it would have been nice if they added that little bit of depth in there for people that maybe have never ever read Age of Apocalypse and are maybe just trying out all these different tie-ins. There are some great moments in this book though. The general story is we have the character Doug Ramsey, and basically the X-Men and the Human Resistance, they want him for some reason. But Apocalypse and his mutants have kind of deemed that this guy isn't very important, but they're intrigued now. Why are they going to such great lengths to get this guy, to get this mutant Doug Ramsey? So we have a great battle between Holocaust and the X-Men, which instantly kind of shows you the stakes that we're playing for here, in that characters will die, and maybe that's part of like these mini-series that must be quite liberating for the writers, in that you can really heighten the peril, because every battle could potentially be somebody's last, and that really heightens that kind of sense of like, oh, for, you know, sense of like this is serious, there's no messing here. So I liked, and that opening battle is just epic, and it just really illustrates that beautifully. Then we have, you know, some great moments in here as a kind of, we're seeing characters slightly different, and that's always really cool. And I think they lay everything out really well, lay the story out. The story is very easy to follow, and then we get to the end, to the big confrontation at the end. The next issue looks like we're going to have a doozy of a confrontation. Personally, once I let go of where does this fit in, I enjoyed the story immensely, and I'm going to give it Age of Apocalypse issue number 1 4 stars out of 5. So another book I picked up was a book from about a month ago. It is Years of Future Past, issue number 1. And before you all cry out to me, Jason, that's 2 $4.99 books, you hypocrite. How could you do such a thing? I got this off eBay, and I got it for a very good price. Now, it's a $4.99 book. In the UK, $4.99 books usually retail for £4.15. A $3.99 book would retail in the UK at £3.15. I bought this for £2.95 with free postage off eBay. Fantastic bargain. It was literally begging me to buy it. So I was quite pleased with myself because I got a nice little bargain. Now, over the weekend before I read this, I read Days of Future Past on Marvel Unlimited, and I really enjoyed that story. It always really amazes me how it's such a really well-regarded story, yet it's only 2 issues. You never get a 2-issue story now. Them are kind of completely died, because like now it's all about the arcs are going to be 6 or 5 issues long for the trades, you know, and it's a shame you don't get these like just really bizarre side stories that go somewhere different just for a couple of issues. It's a shame we can't get back to that, and every kind of thing has to be about one big arc. It'd be nice if they got back to, you know, mixing it up a bit, you know. But anywho, so I read Days of Future Past before I read this to refresh in my memory, because I think I'd only ever read it once. So I wanted to read it again, refresh my memory. Really enjoyed it, and I went into this with it all very fresh in my mind. I didn't have as many issues with this as I had getting into Age of Apocalypse. Partly because the beginning of this kind of pays homage. The beginning of this is very similar. We had Kitty Pryde kind of going home and getting attacked, and Wolverine kind of saving her, and we kind of get a similar deal here. We get Christina Pryde, well, not Christina Rasputin, sorry. She's walking home and to rendezvous with Wolverine, and she gets attacked and Wolverine turns up. Except this time it's a tiger, which is like so cool. She gets attacked by a hungry tiger. The basic gist of this story, again, we don't know where it fits in. We have Christina, who is the daughter of Colossus and Kitty Pryde, and we have this guy called Cameron, who's the son of Wolverine, but we don't know who his mother is. And basically they're the next generation. They're the only newborn mutants. That the mutants have been sterilized, so these two are the last 2 mutants to be born. And so they've uncovered this plot to assassinate President Kelly, who has put all this anti-mutant registration through, and they feel that if they stop this assassination attempt, that it would then kind of make people feel more positive about mutants, and maybe all of this could be turned over, because there's this big vote coming up, and because there are a lot of people kind of crying out that like we've gone too far with what we've done to the mutants, because they are on the brink of extinction, and what's left of them are in these like concentration camps. On Kelly's side, he kind of wants to stir up more trouble, and he gets some people to kind of stage a situation so that it looks bad. For like mutants are really dangerous. I really enjoyed this. It was a really good story. It had a familiar feel because we get to see the characters from Days of Future Past, but time has gone. And I don't know where, again, at the beginning I was a bit kind of het up on where does this fit in, but I enjoyed the story so much I kind of let go of that quickly, because like Christina, I think she's like 15 in here, and like they never had no daughter at all in the previous, so unless something happens to her to where she's no longer around, and then we get Days of Future Passes after this, I don't know. But then they've been on Battleworld so long, but if she's 15, 8 years they've been on Battleworld, they would have already had a daughter. So I don't know where this fits in, but I didn't kind of try and stress myself for too long, because I just enjoyed the story. It has a very familiar feel, a world we only got a brief look at, so it's nice seeing these characters again and getting to see them longer. The art does a great job as well. It has the feel of I'm trying to find a good page. Look, it has like the feel of the original while still retaining its kind of new school kind of ethos, you know. I really enjoyed this. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, but I really enjoyed it. So issue 1 of Years of Future Past, I'm giving 5 stars out of 5. We then have issue number 2, which is brilliant. The two mutants sent to cause trouble. We've had that confrontation. They've gone into hiding now. We get a nice bit at the beginning with this bit at the beginning where we're getting Christina and Cameron are kind of talking about their lives and how, and we get side by side how their childhoods were different. We then jump into the now with the remaining X-Men battling the Sentinels before they go underground to hide out. They uncover what's going on. We get to find out what happened to Storm, who was missing last issue, as you can see from the cover. So we find out what they've been doing with Storm. We get this great one-page monologue from Colossus talking about human hate and how it adapts. Fantastic. It's so long. I would do it, but my Russian accent is rubbish. But the end of the book, it just leaves it on a really great cliffhanger, and just 3 words at the end for next issue. Just got me super excited. I really enjoyed this. I will be adding it to my pull list, and yeah, brilliant stuff. And I give Years of Future Past issue number 2 5 out of 5. Again, another really good book. We then have a Master of Kung Fu issue number 3. This is the penultimate issue. Basically, this world is kind of like a Kung Fu world, and we've got Emperor Zhu, and in this world, the Emperor, every so many years, they have this tournament where all the masters of the different schools, they fight it out, and the winner fights the Emperor, and if they beat the Emperor, they become Emperor. You know, it's kind of like, instead of voting, they have to fight it out. And I kind of think this is a fantastic way to choose your leader, and I want our MPs in this country to kind of go to that. We're going to get our Prime Minister through a Kung Fu tournament. You know, I think we'd get a much better class of Prime Minister if you had to do that. But anywho, so this story's brilliant. Shang-Chi wants to get rid of his father as Emperor, but he's shamed from his past, but now he's kind of decided it's time. You've got Iron Fist. The beginning of the story kind of sheds light on why Iron Fist really dislikes Shang-Chi and their history. So that's really good. They all enter the tournament. We get all Marvel characters reimagined as masters of different schools, which is just a fantastic moment, and it's the kind of thing I love. And then we get this brilliant tournament where I got a very Enter the Dragon kind of vibe, as Shang-Chi's having to beat all these different Marvel characters who've been reimagined as masters of schools. Brilliant stuff. I really enjoyed this. If you love Kung Fu movies, this is definitely a book worth trying, as it really gets that vibe perfectly. And I give Master of Kung Fu issue number 3 5 stars out of 5. So our final Marvel book this week, it is Lando. Star Wars Lando issue number 1. I went into this book, I'm kind of not sure. It's a Charles Soule book, so I knew writing wise it'd be good. But Lando, I was like, I don't know what they're going to do with the character. It had potential, it could go either way. From the first issue, I liked it. Basically, we meet Lando here. When we meet him in the films, we know he was a bit of a gambler, a bit of a scoundrel, who's kind of reformed, that have been responsible for Cloud City and all those people. Changed him. That responsibility changed him, and from being the person he was, and turned him into somebody better. So we get to meet him here when he's a scoundrel, before he has Cloud City. We get to see that Lobot is a long-time friend, so that their association is kind of like before before Empire Strikes Back, which is really cool, because that's something I've always wondered. So I like that they fleshed that out. And it's kind of like you've got Han and Chewie, you've got Lando and Lobot. So I liked that. I thought that was really cool. The gist of the story is Lando owes this gangster some money, and he can't pay it, so he has to do a job for him. He wants to steal this spaceship. So he puts together a team, kind of very Ocean's 11. They do the heist, they get the ship, and then we get the twist at the end of who actually owns the ship. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. A lot happens in this first issue, but it's also set up that reveal at the end, and I think that's going to push the rest of this story. I thought that Lando comes across very charismatic, very charming, a very likable character, and I like the friendship between him and Lobot. That was really well established into this issue, and Lobot's kind of like, oh god, here we go again. And I like that, you know, Lando's the charismatic joker of the team, where Lobot's kind of the straight man, and that works brilliantly. I like the team they put together, but not too much time is spent on it, but I did like the team they put together. They get the ship, and the reveal at the end was really well done. So yeah, I give Lando issue number 1 5 stars out of 5. Oh, and before I go, the art for this also by Alex Malvive, it was really good as well. So yeah, 5 out of 5 for this one, and I'll be adding it to my pull list. So those are the Marvel books. Next up, we've got Indies. So we've got 7 indie books to review this week from 3 different companies. We're going to kick things off with Valiant Comics, and we've got Bloodshot number 4, or Bloodshot Reborn rather, number 4. And this was another good issue. I like this whole thing with like Bloodshot's hearing these voices, and you know, of the Geomancer and Bloodsquirt, and we kind of don't quite know what it is. Is it just his psychosis? Because the human mind is quite fragile, and you look at all what he's been through. He's had his memories messed with constantly, you know, giving him new memories. And then there's all the horrific things he's been through, all the people that he's killed. And maybe when he had the nanites, because they repair your body, maybe they repaired his brain and how allowed you to be able to cope with that. And having them go now, maybe he can't live without them. Maybe there's a thing in him that he can't. I don't know if they dropped this storyline, but I seem to remember in the 90s when Wolverine had the adamantium ripped out of his body and he was just bone. I remember they did a storyline and he started to get a bit more feral, a bit more wild, and that the adamantium was keeping him calm, and that without the adamantium, he was getting more wilder, and that all these years he'd wanted to be rid of the adamantium, but he'd found actually it helped him. And I'm wondering if this is going to be the same thing for Bloodshot. If all these years the nanites have kind of kept his brain in check, you know. The other thing is, it could just be a side effect of what the Geomancer had done to him. You know, maybe what she did to him. She didn't fully understand all her powers yet, because she's still quite new as a Geomancer. So it could be possible that she didn't realise there'd be side effects to what she was doing to him. So yeah, I'm looking forward to finding out what that is and what those voices are. But I like that kind of him trying to cope with these voices while at the same time trying to decide what's right to do. Is a really interesting aspect of the comic. We're introduced to a new character this issue called Magic, and I like her interaction with Bloodshot. Throughout the book we have a kind of inner monologue from Bloodshot kind of describing what he's feeling, but then at the end there's a scene with Magic where the inner monologue switches up, and instead of being in the present, it's set kind of somebody looking back, and I found that a bit disjointed from the rest of the issue. There wasn't a nice transition to it. It just felt a bit odd that this last page we've got this inner monologue of him talking in the future, where the rest of the issue it's been in the present. I didn't think that worked too well. We learn more about our police detective in this issue, the one who's kind of a bit supernatural, and that's interesting. And I like that they're just behind Bloodshot, and they just keep missing him. All in all, this is a really good book, very consistent. The end of the first arc, and I like where it's going and the direction, and I'm very interested to see what happens next. And I'm going to give Bloodshot Reborn issue number 4 4 stars out of 5. So next up from Valiant we have Unity issue number 20. This continues the Warmonger story. She's this character who's supposed to be immortal and can manipulate people into wars, and this issue kind of touches on that. All the big wars, World War One, World War Two, Napoleon War, all the big wars in history she caused. This issue she goes up against a Livewire because she's taken on Unity one member at a time, which is a pretty smart way if you want to break down the group to do it. This issue sees her going up against Livewire, and I find it interesting because like part of the story is her relating her history while she's fighting in the present, and she uses her words her words are our biggest weapon, and she uses those words in this one to really get Livewire not thinking straight, because Livewire has feelings for Ninjak, and so she kind of mentions that she took care of Ninjak, and she's very perceptive and can sense things, and maybe this is part of her power I've been able to create war, in that she can read things really well. Overall, this was good. I'm liking the story. It isn't blowing me away, but I'm enjoying it. I find the character of Warmonger very interesting, and I'm enjoying finding her history. The format of the issue is very much the same as last issue, so in that way there is that kind of familiar feel to it, which some may not like, that it feels the same as last issue. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens when she comes against Exo Man of War and Eternal Warrior, because she's faced Gilad before, so that's going to be interesting. All in all, I'm really enjoying the story. Like I say, isn't blowing me away, but it's a good story, and I'm going to give Unity, issue number 20, 4 stars out of 5. So I'm moving over to Titan Comics now, and we have our weekly Doctor Who. It is the 11th Doctor this week, issue number 14, and this is part 1 of a 2-part finale, as we kind of finish off the first arc in the book. This I really enjoyed. This book has been different to the other Doctor Who books in that it's been one continuous story, and at times it's 2 writers and they've took turns, and at times I've found it confusing and I've been a bit lost. There's characters I don't really care for, but the last couple of issues it's begun to pick up a bit, and with the introduction of Romans and Cybermen, 2 things I really like, it's picked up. This issue I think was the best issue for a while. It was just brilliant. A lot of things we've been following come to a head. We get to find out what's up with Ark and with Jones, and that comes to a head, which is really good. But the highlight of the issue is the TARDIS turns it back on the Doctor. So disgusted with the Doctor's actions during the story, the TARDIS abandons him and tries to find somebody else worthy of it, and leaving the Doctor on his own, and he begins to question what is the Doctor without the TARDIS, and can he still do this without his time machine. And it leads to some really interesting stuff from the Doctor, and just a really great idea that just has never really been explored in a TV show, and I really enjoyed that. And then at the end, when he finally catches up with the TARDIS to try and get the TARDIS to take him back, boy, is there a humdinger of a cliffhanger that I'm just really looking forward to seeing how that's going to get resolved next issue. The art this issue as well, I think they do some really great things here. You know, art-wise, there are some pages where Matt Smith's face looks bizarre, but overall, I like the art, and they do some great stuff here. But yeah, this was good. This is really good. The best it's been for a while, and I give Doctor Who its 11th Doctor, issue number 14, 5 stars out of 5. So moving right along now, we have 8 House, issue number 1, Arclight. This came out a few weeks ago, I think. I didn't initially bring it by. I didn't really know much about it, but a couple of people in my comic shop kind of tweeted that they really enjoyed this, so I thought I'd give it a go, and I'm glad I did. I enjoyed it. First reading, I didn't really grasp what was going on, but I grasped enough that it intrigued me to get the next issue. Second read through, I understood a lot more, because I knew what was coming in the story. So we have this this land which is called Kevropa, the border edge of the Bloodhouse lands. And this is our main character, Arclight, and she works for the lady, this woman here called the Lady. But she's like really strange, and so they find this red creature and it's dying. So Arclight goes and buys a goose, and they kill the goose, and they do this ritual spell, and the life energy from this creature goes into the goose. So they've established straight away that they can switch, that you can switch, like your soul or your life energy can be switched to another body, and then so they return to their home. And I really like this because it's all dark. They call this bridge the artery that runs through the Bloodlands, which I really like the idea that it's called the Bloodlands and the bridge is called the artery. I really like that. and she has to prick her finger on this, and from darkness into light, and it reveals in the light there's this big city, which is where they've come from. And they speak about they don't like the lady. She speaks about she doesn't like living in the light, being in the light of the city. So, and you know, it's a literal thing because like it's hidden in the light. It can be such a thing. We then return to the city. The lady tries to figure out what the goose was, what type of creature it was. Meanwhile, Arclight is in the city with what I think this character must be her partner or her lover, and then this other lady comes in called Sir Noak, and she's very much, you know, oh, you've fallen upon hard times, lady. Once a knight of the Lady Kinga, and now, you know, you skulk around the bloodless nothings in the Edgeland. So then Arclight returns to and wakes up Lady, and she says, "My lady, your body has returned." So I'm guessing, this is what I'm guessing from what we know. We know they can transfer bodies, so I'm taking it that the lady was this Lady Kinga, and her body, somebody stole her body and dismissed Arclight, and Arclight knows the truth, and she's gone with Lady to help her try and get her body back, and this is why they've come back to the city. They're trying to get her body back. It seems like maybe everybody else does not know yet that the body has been switched. Intriguing that all the characters seem to be female, which was an intriguing thing, and I don't know if that's going to be explained later on. Like even you look at like the cover, like the Arclight on the cover there, it looks like a lady, even though she doesn't have any breasts. So it's going to be interesting. Hopefully we'll find out more about that. There's a bit in the back. We have like this code here, and I'm gathering that this story at the back, that you use the code and to decipher the writing, and that this makes a story. Maybe it ties into the main one, I don't know, but I haven't sat down to do that yet. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. Initial first reading, yeah, it was difficult to grasp, but I think second reading I got into it a lot more. Really like the art, it's really different, and yeah, I overall really enjoyed this, and I'm going to be picking up the next one, and I give 8 out of number 1, Arclight, 4 stars out of 5. So next up, sticking with Image, we have Big Man Plans, issue number 4. This is the final issue, and boy, this was disturbing, violently disturbing. He catches up with the sheriff. As we saw last issue, we'd got the sheriff, and this issue we get to the answers we wanted. What's his beef with the sheriff? What did the sheriff do, and why is he doing this? And we get the answers to those questions very satisfyingly. The art here is brilliant. I love the use of colour throughout this book. It really makes things stand out. You know when you've got like a scene from the past because the way that it's all coloured in. So I think that's really great. The art looks great. Some scenes are pretty disturbing, and it does go to some very dark places. But I was very, very satisfied with the conclusion we got here, and it's a shame we're not going to see more of Big Man. But Big Man Plans, issue number 4, I'm going to give 5 out of 5. We then have Descender, issue number 5. I've been liking this, but I'm not loving it, you know. But this issue was the issue where this series come alive. Wow, we really take a big step up. Our protagonists last issue were captured by the Scrappers and are taken back to their home world. And these guys don't mess around, and they're gonna, like, you know, they separate our team of heroes because they want to get information out of the main 3, and the others they don't really care about, so they send them to kind of like these fighting pits, kind of like gladiator times. So that's all really cool and interesting. But on the home planet where they were originally heading, we get to kind of into the politics on this planet, and that there's different things going on, different schemes going on, which is really good, and it makes it more intriguing and it comes to life. And then at the end we get this massive revelation, and it just really starts to shed light on these harvesters, because the mystery of the harvesters is, why did they attack 10 years ago? They come out of nowhere, attacked, and they left. And kind of now it's making maybe a bit more sense with the revelation at the end. You kind of can start putting together theories into what's going on here. So I thought this issue was excellent. I'm enjoying the art. It's very different to anything else, and you know, it can take you a bit to get in. There are certain scenes where maybe you'd like a little bit more detail on certain things to kind of really get into what's happening, and to the motivations. And then there's other scenes where like it works really well. It still reminds me of 2000 AD art-wise, but I kind of go backwards and forwards on the art. But once I get into reading the book, you know, I'm with the story, so I go along with it. But yeah, this was a fantastic issue. This is the issue where the book really steps up, and I give Descender issue number 5 stars out of 5. So our final book this week is Saga chapter 30, and this is the final issue of the current arc. So they're going to go off for their few month break now, which I think is a fantastic idea, to keep those creative juices fresh. Have them 2-month break and then come back to it. I think that's fantastic way to do things, and it's a shame the big two don't kind of take that idea on board as well, because I think it would really benefit the stories. But anywho, so yeah, Saga, I'm still enjoying this, but I'm kind of like, you know, when you don't swear, and then you make a new friend and they swear, every other word is a swear word, and at first it really jars because you're hearing every swear word. But after you've known them a while and you get used to the swears, you get desensitized to the swearing. And I kind of think the same thing's happening for me with Saga. When I started reading this book, I still really enjoy it, but where I used to be in this Saga bubble and the world kind of drifted away and I just was immersed in Saga. And I don't think I am as much now, because I think I'm becoming desensitized to kind of some of the twists and turns that we're getting, and they don't have the impact that they used to have. It's still a really good book, but I just don't think I'm reacting to it like I was way back in the beginning. This issue for me, the high point's the reunion. We have two characters that they kind of teased at the beginning of this arc might not meet up for years, but that was kind of like a red herring, because the character becomes separated from someone else, so that character's not going to meet up with the other character for years. But it leaves, now that they're separate, it leaves the other character. I know this is all kind of convoluted, but I don't want to kind of mention names because there'll be people that read this in trade and I don't want to spoil it for them before it comes out. But there's a reunion here that I didn't expect to see, and I really was pleased to see it, and it was a really pleasant surprise. But other than that, the other twists and turns I kind of think I'm becoming desensitized to. I'm hoping Prince Robot isn't going to revert back to being a villain. I'm hoping, you know, he's been through a lot, him and Marco, so I'm hoping that he's going to kind of not just suddenly turn again. So it's going to be interesting what's going to happen there, but I'm hoping it's going to be good. Well, it's going to be good, but I'm hoping that he's not going to become a villain. Gus is not dead, which is awesome. He's the most adorable character in the history of the universe ever. So every issue I'm just expecting Brian K. Vaughan to do something horrible to him, but he's not yet, and I'm pleased, because more Gus please. He's fantastic. But yeah, this issue was another pleasing issue. Really enjoyed it. Wraps this arc up nicely. There's some interesting threads where this story will go next arc, and I give Saga issue 30 5 out of 5. So those are my indie books for the week. And next up, it's DC Comics. So now we've got 4 books from DC to review this week. Kicking things off with Constantine, the Hellblazer, issue number 2. Somebody's killing ghosts. This isn't supposed to happen, so Constantine's on the case and he comes up with a plan. It's the ghost who's been his best friend since he was a kid, kind of warns John that this isn't a good idea, this isn't going to end good, you need to not do anything here. John, obviously being John, won't listen, and things go pear-shaped. We get a sad death, and then John's like, I'm in over my head. But again, really great stuff. Riley Rosmo's art I just absolutely love, and really evokes the right kind of atmosphere and feel that a Constantine book should have. The writing is brilliant. I'm loving how John's written, and the story as well. you know, of John kind of trying to gather these ghosts and these places he calls. Oh God, he has a name for them, but he walks thin places he calls them. But yeah, you look there, the art, it's really great. If you like Constantine, this is definitely a book worth trying. I really enjoyed this issue, and I'm going to give Constantine the Hellblazer, issue number 2, 4 stars out of 5. So next up we have Earth 2 Society, issue number 2. There's a good story here trying to get out, but unfortunately it's not getting out at the moment. This book has got so much potential, and it could be so different to anything else. With them on a planet trying to set up a society, it could be a superhero book that's very political and could be so different. A kind of political thriller with superheroes, and it could be so different to anything else there on the shelf and be a really interesting book. Unfortunately, what they're doing at the moment for me isn't working, because what they're doing, they're trying to tell a story from the day they arrive on the planet and a year later, and they're trying to tell the two stories concurrently, kind of flitting backwards and forth. The problem is they've got such a big cast of characters that just concentrating on the one timeline would be trouble enough, because you've got so many characters to jump around. But by trying to jump around between that big cast of characters in 2 time zones, the story just keeps being chopped up, and you just don't get no flow to it, and it's just, for me, it's not working. It's just not, it's falling flat, and it's a shame because there's some great characters here. You know, and I'm just kind of like, why couldn't they do, like, you know, even the art here, there's some great moments art-wise. However, there's one big problem art-wise I'm trying to find. What the hell? The Flash. Look at that there, the Flash. What the hell have they done to the Flash? His other outfit was bad enough, but now, oh my God, DC sorting it out. Just like, why do they have this perverse thing with Jay Garrick and giving him ridiculous outfits? Like, the original one was way better than this, and that was dreadful. I mean, the original New 52 one. So yeah, this book for me is on the endangered species list. There was some good stuff here. I like some of the stuff, like with Sloan in the past. I liked with them, like, having to make this difficult decisions and people kind of hating on them but not understanding what they're doing, but in actual fact they're saving them. I liked kind of that, where that was kind of heading, but didn't really go where I'd liked it. But yeah, like I say, I think it's a book with a lot of problems, and for me this is on the endangered species list. It may not make it to next month. So I give Earth 2 Society, issue number 2, I'm going to give it 3 out of 5. Because while there was a lot of stuff in here that I wasn't feeling, I think there is a good story trying to get out, and there were moments in the book that I enjoyed. So I'm going to level it out. I'm going to give it a 3 stars out of 5. We then have Batman Superman, issue number 22, and I really enjoyed this. I liked that they used the villain from Action Comics, but like, and I think you could have got the gist of who he was, but I think for some people might be a bit lost with him. But I liked like Superman's actions here, knowing that he's caused this situation and he's trying to kind of sort it peacefully, and kind of then Batman gets in the way by dealing with it, by trying to take down the bad guy. I like that at the moment they're confrontational, Batman and Superman, and there's not that trust between them, because they're two totally new people in that, like, now the world knows who Superman is in Clark Kent, so he's in a different place. And then you've got, like, Batman's a totally new Batman. So yeah, I like the issue. I like the confrontational feel at the moment. You don't want to see this forever, but at the moment I like where it's going. I love how Greg Pak writes Superman, and the art in here I really enjoyed as well. Though, you know, I didn't think Batman came across that strong in this issue, but I did like that this issue is more from, where last issue was more from Superman's perspective, this issue is more from Batman's perspective, so that balanced it out at least. But I'm enjoying this, and I give Batman Superman issue number 22 4 stars out of 5. So our final DC book of the week is Batman issue number 42, and this was another really good issue. I like the general theme of it. and the advice Julia gives to our new Batman, in that like that the original Batman wasn't about pleasing other people. He did what he believed was right, and the example that he set by the things that he done, they came from the man. And you know, you need to be more about doing what you believe is right and letting people follow that, rather than trying to please everybody and be something, you know, that pleases everyone. I like the tension this season between Sawyer and Gordon. That like Gordon thought that this was going to be a Batman that worked within the law, but Sawyer is kind of not down with that. So I like that. I like the introduction of the new Batmobile, and I thought that was used well. I like the new supervillain that they've introduced in here, and I'm intrigued with all that's going to go. The end I felt was a bit too soon. A certain character returned, and I'm like, that was a bit quick. I thought we'd at least get like little teases every issue maybe, and then down the road. But I think already that character being introduced again, I felt it was a bit quick. But I'm still really enjoying this. It's Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo Batman. There ain't, you know, what's not to enjoy. I'm enjoying this. I'm liking where the story's going, and I look forward to next issue. And I give Batman issue 42 4 stars out of 5. So those are DC's. Next up is pick of the week. So my pick of the week for the second week of July 2015 is Black Science issue number 16. This was fantastic. I've been enjoying this series. At times, there's so much crammed into each issue that it can be a bit difficult remembering issue to issue what exactly happened, because so much they cram in, and there's so many characters. Things have been a bit skimmed now, so we're getting less characters, and a lot of stuff comes to a head in this issue from that, like all the first 16 issues. So it felt like we're really at the end of an era with Black Science, as we're going to move into a new phase where some characters might not make it through. So I really liked it. A lot of things that have been building kind of come to a head here, which is brilliant. You question other things that you knew when you learn more stuff here. It's just brilliant. The art is immense, and the colouring is just brilliant. I just absolutely loved it. This is my favourite kind of double page spread of the issue. I just absolutely love that. But it's brilliant. You've got Grant, who's trying to step up and leave a world better than when they leave than when they arrived. But then you've got like the thing counting down, the pillar counting down, and you've got loads of crazy stuff happening there. I really enjoyed, obviously it's pick of the week, so I really enjoyed it, but I just found it a very satisfying read. And yeah, we have to wait till November, and you're like, oh god, how could they leave it there, you know? But I'm super excited for this series, and every issue kind of delivers, but this issue was a bit above, because it just felt like you had the resolution of so much. And I think that maybe this is where it was unfair to some of the other issues this week, because we had a lot of good comics this week, but this was kind of like the culmination of building for months, years even, where like, so maybe as a single issue, I don't know, would it be above the others? Because it's, as a standalone issue, it's a great issue, it's a great story. What goes in here, and as always, Remender throws in crazy twists and turns you just don't see coming, and the art is just brilliant. So probably as a single issue, yeah, it still stands up, but for me, reading it, I can't take away when reviewing it that little thing you get from reading the issues and see it all build up, and you get to this point and you're like, wow. And after 16 issues, to have a book and you're still going wow, I think is a great achievement. Really enjoying the book, and my pick of the week for the second week of July 2015 is Black Science issue number 16. So we've made it to the end of the video, and it's time again to do Company of the Week. For those of you that are new, what Company of the Week is each week I take, say for example, the Marvel books, I add together the scores I gave each book, I divide it by the number of Marvel books I've reviewed, and it gives me an average score. I do the same for DC, the same for the Indies, and I see which one is going to be Company of the Week. So this week in third place with a very low, well, not really a low, halfway score of 3 points average of 3.7, it is DC Comics. In second place with a much more respectful average rating of 4.6, a very good rating, are the Indies. That this week from the Indies there was Valiant, Titan Comics and Image. But yeah, so no surprise, the Company of the Week again is Marvel Comics with an average rating of 4.8. It was an exceptional week for Marvel. 4 of the 5 books I read from them got 5 stars out of 5. So that was what really pushed them this week. And it's part of the reason why I get so annoyed at Marvel sometimes with the pricing, is because there's so many good comics from them coming out, and it's just annoying, you know, that whole situation. But a good point about the situation, I had some very good feedback from somebody with a differing view who didn't mind the $4.99 for X-Men 92. Flawed Coil 82 gave some very good arguments on why he didn't mind. And one thing in particular that really resonated, and really I hadn't considered it from that viewpoint, but he sort of said, well, if it was a choice between paying $1 more or not having X-Men 92 exist as a comic, I would rather pay the $1 more. And I'd not considered it from that perspective. So thank you to Flawed Coil 82 for his opposing viewpoint, and he put it in a nice way as well, which is always good. So thank you to Flawed Coil 82. So yeah, that is me done for another week. I will be back on New Comic Book Day with another Dude's Comic Haul video. I think I'm getting, it depends, I never know, like, if the Doctor Who books are coming out. If they're out this week, I think it could be about 16 books I'm picking up this week on New Comic Book Day. So I will be back with a new haul video. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed the video, please give me those beautiful thumbs up. Hope you all have a great New Comic Book Day, and I look forward to seeing everybody's hauls. All that leaves me to say is that I've been Jason. This has been my comic book review video. Bye for now.